Good morning, and thank you for joining us here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg, Florida. Special thanks to Lori for ringing the bell that her father installed so many years ago. My name is Ben Atherton Zeman. I'm the minister here. My phone has just fallen. I'm excited to bring you today's worship service. Good morning. Along with our guest minister, Reverend Jay Wolin. So excited to have you here, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here. And our worship associate, Jamie Gray. So if you have a minute, Jamie Gray, to join us, that would be lovely. So many of us are working on this worship service together, and I'm glad that you are all here.
Thanks, Ben. We are people of many beliefs, but we share a common faith. That is what we do in this world, and that matters. We are connected to one another and to our planet. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your journey, you're welcome here. I want to give a special welcome to any newcomers. If you want a church where Black Lives Matter, where science is real, where no human is illegal, and gender isn't biased, I have good news. You may have found your church home.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. We have a couple of announcements before we begin. Those of us who watched my midweek video know that I asked Janae to move her desk downstairs to Kelly's office. I didn't mean to startle anyone. It seems to have startled some folks. The glass round table was moved to the library. You all can see it there. Kelly and Janae are in the process of redesigning the space, and they have big plans. It is not finished yet. To me, this is more than a desk being moved, a piece of furniture. To me, this is about inclusion. I made this change because historically, both in this church and in our denomination, religious education has been seen as less important. It's been shunted off to the side, or in this case, upstairs. Bringing Janae downstairs brings her more into the center of the church's operations, where she belongs. I've received some feedback from some of you that this is a welcome change, and that you love coming into the door and seeing the sign, religious education. It greets you right away. I've heard from a couple others that this was a shock and a big change that surprised you, and one of you suggested that I bring this up here, so thank you for that suggestion. If any one of you has thoughts or feelings or just wants to talk about this, please contact me.
People can pick up their goodie bags after church until 1 o'clock by driving by the front door of the church, or they can request a delivery. For delivery, please contact Susan Bernor at 770-480-0200 or susanbernor@gmail.com. The safety team, following our COVID policy set by our board of directors, have determined that small groups of 10 or more, or under, can now meet inside the church. Members of these groups should wear masks, keep a distance from one another, and ensure that the room is well ventilated.
All right, thanks, Jamie. And apparently there's a sporting event of some sort going on today. Sports ball type of thing. So feel free, if you're unlike me, didn't just hear about this yesterday, and you care who wins the sports ball, feel free to put in the text chat, because we are still remote mostly, who you want to win. For Jamie, it's the Bengals, right?
Yep.
So my allegiance being completely up for grabs, go Bengals. My Patriots aren't in it. I can be bought. You might know that our theme for the month is widening the circle. Our Journeys worship service last week, our amazing worship service, widened the circle of who our members are. It featured stories from an experienced member and a new member. Today, the worship service by Reverend Jay widens the concept of love. It is Valentine's Day, and usually that focuses on romantic love, but I'm so excited for Reverend Jay's worship service on Agape. Next week, we'll talk about widening the circle, and Reverend Jay is also going to bring us today's time for all ages. It's just going to be a good month, and it's going to be a good day, and I'm excited to be here with you for it. In addition to Reverend Jay and Jamie, we have John Arterton and James Mack providing music along with, they're getting the band back together, Rebecca Wilson, Annie Hall, and Lori Clement for music, along with Aaron Cassette, who you've already heard. Kelly Olson is live streaming, and our greeters today are John Motter, Cynthia Alisea, and Aaliyah Cannon. Now, let us take a moment to center ourselves for worship. Our flaming chalice is a symbol for Unitarian Universalism, symbol of the hope, the sacred, the quest for truth, the warmth of community, the light of reason, so much more. And when Reverend Jay lights our chalice, made by the late, great Mordecai Roth, I invite you to say our covenant out loud. The words can be found in the text chat, and please follow along with the new hand movements. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide, and so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love, hands joined together as hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Thank you very much. I'm Reverend Jay Wolin, and it is wonderful to be with you here online and in person, whoever is here. Our opening words today are from the Zen Vietnamese Buddhist Thich Nhat Hanh from his book Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. With the mind of love, we have a heart on fire and the vitality and strength to do whatever we want to do. The mind of love is the energy of a bodhisattva who vows to become an instrument of peace, compassion, and well-being in the world. The mind of love can nourish and heal. The mind of love can help us protect the environment and the planet. The mind of love goes together with awakening and enlightenment. Understanding is the very foundation of love. It's another word for love because once we understand, we already begin to love. There is a very deep connection between the heart and the mind. We have a very simple definition for love. We say that to love means to be there. First of all, for yourself and for the wonders of life and the earth all around you. And once you are truly present, you can offer that presence to those that you love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Jay. Now we come to the time in our worship service for joys, sorrows, and concerns. The service is being brought to you via YouTube Live, so please type your joys, your sorrows, and your concerns into the text chat. During the week, if you have one, please write me at minister@uustpete.org and let me know at that time if you don't want me to share it into the YouTube universe, in which case I'll keep it between us. But our first stone today, Jamie will place a stone in the water, as I say each of the ones that was submitted this week. Our first stone is a stone of thanks for the life of Mark Mcneil. As you know, Mark passed away last year, and last week I had the honor of being a part of a small service in remembrance of Mark. Cheryl and I laid his ashes to rest in our memorial garden, along with a few close friends. A donation was made in his name to the Memorial Garden Fund, and his name was added to the plaque on the garden wall right behind where I'm standing. A stone of sorrow for Amir Locke, a 22-year-old black man killed by the police in Minneapolis 11 days ago. As we feel our hearts break yet again, let us send our love to Amir's family, to the community of Minneapolis, and to all communities who live in fear of police violence. Jamie and I were working on this third stone this morning, and this is what I've come up with: a stone for all who mourn, for all who celebrate, for all who have died, and for all who live. And then we'll place a final stone for those joys, sorrows, and concerns that remain in our hearts, perhaps too tender to be spoken out loud. Let us take a moment of silence together. The mystery is that we are connected even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in our beloved community that makes of the many one. So may it be.
Okay, so for all of those at home, it's time, if you have children and they're away from the YouTube, bring them forward to your TV or your device so that they can participate in this Word for All Ages. I didn't realize that we didn't have a screen, I'm sorry. So if you want to see the pictures, the people who are sitting here, you're going to have to move closer. But the book is If You Plant a Seed by Kadir Nelson. And it shows a little bunny rabbit and a mouse planting a seed with the sun shining down. And it says, if you plant a tomato seed, a carrot seed, and a cabbage seed, in time, and with love and care, before we go on, I want to point out here, I know you can't see this, but the rabbit here is reading, it's a book on gardening, and the book is upside down. And so it doesn't clearly know a lot about gardening, but even so, through hard times, through the rain, now the mouse doesn't care about the rain. It is just laughing the whole time. It loves dancing in the rain. The rabbit, on the other hand, doesn't seem so happy with all the rain. But if you plant with time and with love and with care a tomato seed, a carrot seed, and a cabbage seed, guess what will happen? Tomatoes, carrots, and cabbage will grow. And look, everybody's doing a little jig. Anybody want to feel moved to do a little jig at home? You can get off your couch or your bed or wherever you are, your chair, and get up and do a little jig. You can do that here too, for the few who are here. And they just eat, and they enjoy the bounty that they have grown. But you will see, I don't know if you can see, there are some birds flying around, and they come around, and what do you have? You have, looks like a pigeon, a crow, a blue jay, my personal favorite. My name is Jay, and so my whole life I was called Blue Jay. Today I might be gray and red jay, I guess, but we have a cardinal, and not quite sure what that one is, so if there are more birders at home, you can identify that. But, you know, those birds look kind of hungry. They do. They look kind of hungry. And they want some of that food. Now, you may say, you know, well, I grew this food. You didn't do anything to grow that food. Why should we share it with you just because you're hungry, right? But, you know, they didn't grow that food just by themselves. They had to get the seed from somewhere. They had to have the sun. They had to have a dirt that would be allowed, that the seed could grow in. So it didn't just happen all by themselves. It was interdependent with everything around them. But planting a seed is not just about for growing food. We, as humans, plant seeds within ourselves. And we have a choice about what kind of seed we plant within ourselves. So you can, as you can see here, if you can, you can plant a seed of selfishness. And in a very short time, right, they don't want to share the food with the birds. In a very short time, the birds seem very angry. And that seed, if you plant selfishness, it will grow and grow and grow and grow. And can see the birds and the animals are fighting over the food. And it will grow into a heap of trouble. And you'll see all the abundance that they had, much of it is destroyed because they were selfish. But we, as I said, have a choice. We can plant other seeds within ourselves, right? We make that choice. So either the seed of selfishness or the seed of generosity. And so you see here, they plant a seed of kindness by sharing their food with the birds. And in almost no time at all, you see the birds fly away, and you think, oh well, they're gone. They're not going to bother us anymore. But in no time at all, the fruits of kindness came back. The birds, because they were treated with kindness, decided to treat the animals with kindness and provided many more seeds for these animals to plant. And so, if you plant seeds of kindness, that will also grow and grow and grow. And you will see, I know you can't see it even at home, it's kind of dark. He is now reading the book right side up. And I'm assuming these birds are helping him learn how to garden. And even the rain doesn't seem to bother him so much anymore. And you can see the one bird putting his wing over the other birds, right? So that it is doing kindness. They're protecting each other. And then as they grow, you see they grow not just food, but a beautiful garden of sunflowers, which I imagine they will give out on Valentine's Day to those that they love, right? That'll come into play with my reflection. And then look, at the end, they have a bountiful, again, and all of a sudden, we have Chip and Dale, we have a raccoon, a duck, and its chicks, and it brought about generosity. I'll bet they had eggs now then to feed each other. All of a sudden, there's corn. There are more things. So by coming together, by being generous, by being kind with each other, we expand not only our abundance of goods, but we expand our abundance of friends and of community, of who we consider community. So let us, in all, adults, children, everyone, in all of our actions, let us plant the seeds of kindness and generosity, so that when we do interact with each other, we will act with kindness and generosity. May it be so.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wide. the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw it wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle. Draw the circle wide.
So with Valentine's Day approaching, the thought of love is in the air. It's all over the air, like in the airwaves, right? With advertisements to buy things for those that we love. Well, a number of years ago, I tried a new tact with my wife, Jan. I told her that every day should be Valentine's Day, and that I shouldn't need to buy flowers at exorbitant prices and go out to fancy dinners to prove our love to each other. And then she got this sort of look in her eye that I knew I was sort of in trouble. And she asked me quite wryly, what other days of the year had I bought her flowers? Well, she had a point on that one. I'll give her that one. But the next year, a few weeks before Valentine's Day, and I had been planning this all year, literally. I had it in my to-do list on my date timer, and so a few weeks before Valentine's Day, I bought her a dozen roses and sent them to her office. And I want to point out about the third of the price of the cost on Valentine's Day. And then she asked me, she called me up, why did you get me flowers? Like, had I done something wrong that I needed to be forgiven for? And then I reminded her of the comment that I had made the year before about any day being Valentine's Day. And then she gave me a sort of funny kind of look. That sort of look that comes from being in a relationship for a very long time, that kind of look that says, are you insane for bringing up something that was discussed a year ago? Love. Love, such an esoteric topic. Poets, philosophers, writers have written about it forever. Everyone has their own take on it. First love, love at first sight, eternal love. For those who've seen the movie Love Story might remember the line that says, love is never having to say you're sorry. Or many other people who believe that love is always having to say you're sorry. Whatever we may think of love, Valentine's Day has become a commercial holiday that speaks to a romantic love, or what the Greeks would call eros. But there are other types of love spoken of throughout history as part of a religious understanding of love. In the Jewish and Christian scriptures, the word love appears over 500 times. But as with all translations, particularly, there are many nuances to how a word is translated, right? And this is complicated even further by the fact that they were translated for different communities in different times. Some were written in Aramaic, some in Hebrew, some in Greek. And as we know, they were changed over time, sometimes purposely and sometimes accidentally. So it is important to look deeply at the meaning of words. From the Greek, they usually speak of three types of love. In addition to eros, there is philia, which is a love of friendship, and there is agape, which in the Christian scriptures is used more as an unconditional, self-sacrificing love with no conditions. In the scriptures, Jesus says, and I quote, "You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you." End quote. Pray for those who abuse you? I have to admit, I struggle with this concept. I do. Yet I am reminded about what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, "God says I have to love everyone. It is a good thing God doesn't say I have to like them." End quote. King was always very clear that the love that he put forth, this agape love, was not love in an affectionate sense, right? But an unconditional love within his own heart, with the hope of appealing to the heart and conscience of those who would do him harm. He was interested in, and I quote, "in the creation of a society where all people will believe together that every person will respect the dignity and worth of human personality." End quote. For the truth is, if we hate our enemy, right, we let hatred into our hearts, and it does affect us. It consumes us. It eats us up, right? Loving our enemy is about letting go of our hatred, right? Let us look at loving our enemy as a way to self-reflection and self-knowledge. So we can look at loving our enemy is as much about loving ourselves, helping us reach our highest potential. Now, there's another biblical term for love that rarely gets used, right? It's the Hebrew word hesed. As the Jewish scriptures speak to covenantal relationship, this word regards a covenantal love. Right? It is sometimes translated into English as mercy or righteousness or loving kindness. And in the Jewish scriptures, it is usually used to show either the mutual love between God and the Israelites, or the love the Israelites should have amongst themselves. They are in covenant with each other, much like Unitarian Universalists are in covenant with each other. Even when one fails to live up to their end of the covenant, there is still a requirement for love. Throughout the scriptures, there is a steady, persistent refusal to abandon anyone in the community. Even in the book of Job, if you remember, Job is tortured and his friends abandon him. And he says, a friend owes loyalty even to one who fails. In the case, the word hesed then is described as loyalty, love as loyalty. In the book of Hosea, Hosea prophesies, and I quote, "I desire goodness, not sacrifice," and tells the Israelites to sow righteousness for yourselves and reap the fruits of goodness, just like those animals, right? Reaping the fruits of goodness. These are the essential meanings of the Hebrew word which is translated into loving kindness: to keep your covenants, to do good, to be righteous with each other even when we fail. And this same line actually is repeated in a poem by the Sufi mystic Rumi, "Come, come, whoever you are," right? It's a hymn in our hymnal. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. I could do a whole reflection just on that hymn. But the line from that poem that is left out in our hymnal is, come, even if you have broken your vow 100 times, come, yet again come. We are not perfect human beings. We make mistakes, but we still need to love each other. For that is what it means to be a beloved community. A love that lifts each other up to our highest, best selves. We see this across all of these religious traditions. A concept of a theology of love has a long history, particularly on the Universalist side of our Unitarian Universalist heritage. In America, Universalism grew significantly when John Murray came to America in 1770. So I want to just share briefly an overview of his story. He was a successful Methodist minister in England. He was married, had a child, life was good. And then suddenly, as fragile as life can be, everything changed very quickly for him. His wife and son became sick and died. Murray was excommunicated from the church for preaching universalism. He lost all of his money, was put in jail because he could not pay his bills. They did that in those days. And then when somebody finally bailed him out of jail, he decided he'd had enough. He's giving up this religion thing and going to America and start anew. So that in and of itself, I think, is a great model for us to think about, that even when things do not work out as planned, when the fragility of life sometimes breaks us, sometimes so, that change is still possible. So John Murray was sailing to New York, but the ship was blown off course and got stuck on a sandbar in New Jersey. Murray gets off the boat, finds supplies, and happens upon the farm of Thomas Potter. Now, Thomas Potter had built a church and was waiting for a minister to preach about a loving God. And at that time, in America, many followers of Calvinism, they believed in the depravity of humanity and the predestination of the soul. So on the one hand, Potter's looking for a Universalist minister, and Murray, who had previously preached a Universalist message, his boat just happens to end up by Potter's farm. Coincidence? Providence? Myth? I leave it to you to decide. I like a good myth myself, but I will say sometimes truth is stranger than fiction sometimes. Well, Murray demurred, but Potter was insistent, and Murray said, well, okay, if the wind doesn't blow me out to sea tonight, I will come back and preach tomorrow. And guess what happened? The wind didn't blow him out to sea. And Murray started his Universalist preaching career in America. Murray's most often repeated words are, and I quote, "Go out into the highways and the byways of America, your new country. Give the people blanketed with a decaying Calvinism something of your new vision. You may have but a small light, but uncover it, let it shine. Use it to bring more light and understanding into the hearts and minds of people. Give them not hell, but give them hope and give them courage. Do not push them deeper into theological despair, but preach kindness and everlasting love." John Murray's message and lesson is a good lesson for all of us in perseverance, redemption, despite setbacks, despite tragedy, despite trauma. He kept his integrity in his vision of hope and love alive within himself and allowed himself to be open to the circumstances as they arose, right? We've all been through a lot these last couple of years, and it's hard, but it's an important lesson that we learn to keep that integrity of hope and love within us and to share it with others. So it allowed him, it changed not only the course of his life, but his life changed the course of so many other lives. And I just wanted that to be a reminder to all of us. Everything we do impacts everyone that we interact with, whether we realize it or not in the moment. What we do, how we treat them, impacts them for the rest of their lives, potentially. So Buddhism also speaks of this sort of love without boundaries. And they call it Buddhist love lists. I'll just say that. I actually study Buddhism. It's a very deep part of my life. But they love lists. And so one of them is the 4 immeasurable minds. And the first is Maitri, which can be translated as loving kindness, friendship, companionship. It's a type of love that brings happiness and advocates that love is a trait that can be mindfully cultivated. Right? So we can be mindful and cultivate love. The second element of love or immeasurable mind is karuna, or compassion. Karuna is the capacity to bring comfort, to remove suffering. And compassion, as we know, it can be restorative to us, right? And we never have enough, right? So it's a kind of energy that we need to keep generating and regenerating day after day after day. And we need to rekindle the source of this energy to not only transform our suffering into compassion, but to help transform others' sufferings into compassion. Now, the third element of love or immeasurable mind is mudita, or joy. Love should always bring joy, it says, right, to ourselves and to the other person. And if it doesn't bring joy, then maybe it is not love. Buddhism differentiates joy and happiness. I think this is actually an important thing. By imagining that you are someone in a desert who is parched and desperately needs a drink, and upon seeing a cool stream of water, you are filled with joy. But when you drink from the stream is when you experience happiness. So love, what this points out to me, is that it needs both emotion and action, not one or the other, but both. And then the final element of love or immeasurable mind is upekkha, which is translated as inclusivity and equanimity sometimes. And this is part of the expansiveness of love, right? The recognition that we are interdependent with all beings and with all things, including the earth, like I mentioned in the story, with the sun and the dirt and the water, all interdependent. All human beings are interdependent with each other as well. And this recognition that we are interdependent with all beings and that our happiness is interdependent with other beings' happiness. And our sufferings are interdependent with other beings' suffering. And so it's why it is so important to grow our love and compassion. The Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh tells the story of the Buddha was one day holding a bowl of water in this hand, since I'm right-handed, and a handful of salt in the other hand. And he puts the salt into the bowl of water, and he stirs it, and he asks the monks, "My dear friends, do you think you can drink that water?" And they go, "Oh, no, it's so salty," they said. And so he then says, "Well, if I throw that same amount of salt into a river, right, into a big river, it would not make that big river salty at all. And thousands of people could drink from the water from that river. And so the message being that we need to grow our big heart, grow our compassion. And when we do that, we suffer less. Others suffer less. The more compassion we have, we can reduce suffering. The UUA as well has created a wonderful program called the Side with Love campaign. Their website indicates we want to harness love's power to stop oppression, exclusion, and violence. The power of love. I just love that phrase, not just because it was a song by Huey Lewis in the News, which I listened to back in the day, but the power of love, right? It can move mountains. It can change the course of an empire. And even more importantly, it can change the heart of a human being. So let every day be Valentine's Day. Let every day be Side with Love Day. Let love not only be in the air, but in our hearts and in our minds and in our souls. And let that be expansive. And it's okay if you want to buy flowers for the one you love on Valentine's Day or not, whatever you choose to do it with love in your heart for others. Right? We just have to act with love for others. We just have to care more for ourselves and others, right? To empathize with others who may think or be different than we are. Yes, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, house the homeless, and as well change the conditions that create those needs. And as important, between ourselves as covenanted people, to help each other, to learn from each other, to be righteous with each other, to show mercy with each other. For that is what it means to love each other. And isn't that what we want for ourselves and for each other? Isn't that a message that so many people are thirsting for? The power of love. And we have that power. May it be so. Thank you.
Now let us remember our connection to one another and not forget our contributions to support the means of our covenant. If you're a newcomer here, please refrain from making a donation. This service is our gift to you. And your presence here is your presence here is your gift to us. The link to give is in the description box below your screen. You can also donate through the Vanco Faith Engagement mobile app or on our website under the Giving tab at UU St. Pete, or by sending a check or money order or even cash to the church office. We appreciate every offering. Thank you.
in the embers of the fires, in the rustling of the leaves as the sun sets at the end of the day. What we believe matters. How we act matters. How we love matters. In all of our actions, we teach others what our values are. Let the light shine on the better nature of our angels. Let love rise just as the sun rises with the dawn and bathes the world with its radiance, which allows the garden to bloom. May each of us bloom as we share our love with each other.